I think we're on. Welcome, everybody, to a very special edition of this humble little Zoomcast that commenced during an initial lockdown here in Victoria. I can't believe I'm saying it, but we're back. And we're back in lockdown, but we're back with Zoomcast. We've got an all-stars edition, some of the very best guests that were quite kind to give up their time over the journey since this one commenced with episode 1 and the great Brendan Allen back in August of 2020. I think we've had 16 or 17 episodes since then. And I tell you what, today we've got more stars than Oceans 11, 12 and 13 all put together. Some of the industry's greats that have joined us. We've got sales people, we've got advocates, we've got property management gurus, we've got team leaders, CEOs, the list goes on and on. I'm very humble to say that I'm Matt Grima and I'm going to be running proceedings today. I'm going to rip through each guest individually. We're going to have a bit of fun. Everybody's got a beverage in hand. Give us a little beverage and a wave, team. Thanks again for coming on and getting involved. So I'll go through each person one by one. We'll learn a little bit about how their lockdown is going, what they've been up to for the bulk of the year, how their year has progressed. I mean, any one of these great people can jump in at any stage and offer some tidbits as we move through. We're going to start with the big fella who hasn't got any sleeves on his shirt, which I know is shocking. It's the great Matt Pilios, fresh off an AREC special. Matty, welcome. You're still up north, I believe.
I am. I'm working hard here. I just felt that not travelling back to distract my kids at home schooling would be the smartest option. And with the okay from my partners, I've decided to stay in Queensland and enjoy the gym and make a lot of calls and be dollar productive and keep working.
Oh, there's
and coming off AREC.
No doubt you're enjoying the gym, Matty. Those guns are absolutely blazing. Talk us through AREC. How was it? Obviously, a lot of us that were wanting to get there weren't able to get there. Talk us through the week and how you managed to escape and what the atmosphere was like, despite a lot of your colleagues and friends not being able to travel.
Yeah, it was an awesome experience. It wasn't as good without any Victorians there, or it was hardly any Victorians, maybe 30 or 40, but no martial white people. But it was epic, to speak there. It was very, the last 3 or 4 weeks was very distracting because I wanted to make sure I did a good job because 20 minutes of business content and real estate content wasn't easy to do. You can MC and you can commentate and do auctions, but I was actually pretty scared and nervous and had a Saturday, on the Saturday, had a really bad day, just stressed out about it, had a sleepless night the Friday night. And I jumped on stage at 5:30. They gave the arena to every speaker. And Marcus, you probably will remember this. I think, Madeline, you've spoken there. And they said, John McGrath said, you got to speak. And I just did the worst talk. And I got it out of the way. And he said, you can't walk around and too fast. And it was really good to get it out of the way. Don't scream, you're not commentating. And I just practiced it again. And I was just practicing the talk because it had to be 20 minutes. And it just came off really well. I think I was able to deliver some good messages to probably people starting up because the main reason I was there, because I've only been in the industry for 6 years or 5 years.
Yep.
But it was epic. It was emotional not to have our team at Marshall White, Bell and the kids. And I sort of felt guilt in some ways too because everyone was stuck in Victoria. So it was really mixed emotions. I must admit, I was very emotional doing it at the end because I felt terrible for us. Marshall White, we're a family. And, I had my wife coming who was imperative with everything I do. And I was just sad because of that, but I was very happy and humble to do it.
Good on you.
The event was great. They had, I think, about 3,700 people there, which was pretty awesome.
Still a pretty strong turnout despite our state not being able to get there.
Yeah, I think they'd lost 850 tickets from the Victorians, but had sold 150 in the last 3 days. And, I got to meet some great people.
Good on you. And Matty, the jacket that you wore, can you talk us through that? I mean, it was, I don't know if anybody saw it. There's been a little bit on social media about it, Matt. Talk us through the Godwin Charlie number.
Well, Godwin Charlie is one of the top stylists of Melbourne and does our suits. And he just said, I said, look, I'm speaking at AREC in May. Can I get something that's stylish? And obviously being in my 40s now, I've got no idea what's stylish. And he said, mate, I'll get you the jacket. This one we've just ordered and got it tailor suited. And it was great. So obviously some mixed reviews from people, a bit loud, but it was an amazing experience. Got some great content from a lot of the speakers. It was just, you just miss that AREC. It's such a great event. I mean, I know a lot of that Marshall White crew go to it. You just really absorb some gold off different people and real estate agents from different states.
Well done. And what was the feedback like, Matt? Obviously, you got a chance to meet a lot of people while you're up there. They were pretty impressed with what you brought to the table. But it's a big event, isn't it? You get to meet agents from all across the country and have an opportunity to network with those.
Yeah, it was nice. A lot of photos and stuff, but you're very grateful because there's a lot of aspiring agents to be there. There's some interviews with Tom Panos and their gym, so it was really nice. It was very humbling. I think it's a great once in your real estate career experience.
Yep.
And I'm very grateful to have been chosen from John and McGrath and Tom, and hopefully I represent Marshall White well. And I hope John and Jack and Marcus Leonard and all the bosses were happy, and it was an absolute privilege.
Well done. Well done. No, you've done well. We look forward to having you back here. Safe travels to you. And thank you again for giving up a bit of time for this very special All-Stars edition of Zoomcast.
I've never seen so many superstars in the one Zoomcast. So I just want to say you all look epic today, and I love you guys, all you guys, and I hope everyone's okay.
Thanks very much, Matty. Good on you. Good on you. We're going to whip
Thanks
down,
for having me.
The Peninsula, and one of Marshall White's favourites that's made a huge decision off the back of lockdowns and COVID, and to set her career up for phase 2 down at RT Edgar Flinders. It's everybody's favourite, Matty Kennedy. G'day, Matt.
Hey, Matt. Thanks for having me. I was a little surprised to be invited, actually, now that I'm no longer in the fold. But nice to see all the old friendly faces.
Mads, this isn't a Marshall White special. This is Matt Grima's Zoomcast, so don't worry about the fold. You are one of the all-time greats, and it's a privilege to have you on here.
Thanks, Matt.
A lot of people want to know, Mads, how was the move been for you personally, professionally? I did a little REA checking just before we jumped on. You've been busy, Mads. You're right in the thick of it down there. I think 10 sales already. You got 4 live listings. You're motoring down the peninsula, which won't surprise any of us, by the way.
Thanks, Matt. Yeah, no, it's been a little busier than I first anticipated. I thought I'd come down and have a slightly slower pace and spend a bit more time with the kids, but it's been busy. A lot of people say to me, how did I forecast that this would happen on the peninsula? Well, that certainly wasn't any of my prediction or forecast. It was just luck. I think if we'd all bought a property down here a couple of years ago, we'd be laughing now. That's been great. Love it. Miss all the old crew from Marshall White. Still a little surreal that I'm not actually in the team anymore, but still get a few little tidbits through James, obviously, with what's going on. But loving it down here, loving the lifestyle. Certainly do not miss the traffic in Armidale. Absolutely do not miss that. And I think I've been back to Melbourne maybe 2 or 3 times since January, and I kind of get in and get out. Prefer to be banging along the dirt track in Flinders or Shoreham than High Street Armidale. So
is it different, Mads? Is there a difference in terms of volume, process, structure? Company obviously is different, but your skill set as an agent transitions fairly easily, I'd imagine. But maybe point out 2 or 3 of the differences that you've encountered since making the move.
The processes are the team that I'm working with is fairly systemised and process driven, so there's not a lot of change from that perspective. Most of the time is kind of spent out and about rather than in the office. So I'm either at home doing phone calls, or I'm out and about with doing clients, doing inspections or appointments. I think there's probably a slightly more relaxed perspective from clients. Still an expectation, obviously, with delivering the service and delivering the results, but seem to be a little more relaxed about the process. There's no evening work, which is wonderful. Whenever anyone wants to see you, it's during the day. I think I drove out of Flinders at about 5:45 a couple of weeks ago. I just finished my 5 o'clock appointment, and it was an absolute ghost town. So there's no kind of nighttime work, which is refreshing and important. Obviously, with James getting home a little later from town and having the kids, obviously, so that's been nice. But no, the clientele's lovely. A lot less demanding, but obviously still have an expectation of what's to be delivered. And the market is just, we could sell most properties 5 times in the first week. It's just absolutely nuts down here. The number of the number of people trying to get down here from Melbourne. We just don't have enough listings. It's across the board. It's usually fairly quiet over winter. people don't necessarily want to put their 10 acres on the market because of the muddy driveway or the leafless trees and things like that. So there's a few little off-market deals that we're doing on the side, but there's slightly slower over winter. So I've actually just enjoyed the slower pace of lockdown and having a bit more time with the kids. So it's been great. Thank you.
Good on you. As I said, I don't think anybody's surprised by how quickly you've been able to find some traction in that part of the world. And I think everybody at Marshall White wishes you great success as you continue to do great things down the peninsula. Just before we let Mads go, does anybody want to jump off and say good day or ask a question? As I said, incredibly informal setup here. Jovanovic, Chiminello, I'm probably looking at you to get involved if you want to. Okay.
Hey, Maddie, I'll actually jump in with a question to you.
Oh, yeah, Simon. Yep.
Maddie, you've also had some pretty big news in recent weeks. So what have you got up to in lockdown? Can you share that with us?
Not sure we're hijacking Mads' spot here, Simon. But,
no, you go for it. Go for it.
Sort of not where I was hoping you might go with this. Chimmo, were you going to ask Mads specifically a question before I answer Simon's?
Not anymore. I want to hear this.
Got it. Look, lockdown's tough. There's not much going on, so I decided to propose to Danielle, and we managed to get engaged over the last couple of days, which has been nice.
So what are you saying? If you weren't in lockdown, you wouldn't have proposed?
I just think it adds an extra layer of demand, Simon, for that sort of stuff. But we celebrated 5 years together on Saturday, and it was probably the right time to get moving. So I feel really embarrassed about speaking about this during Zoomcast, but thank you.
Matthew, how are you, Matt?
Brendan, I'm well, mate. How are you?
Why did it take 5 years, do you think? Like, what was the reason for sort of longer deliberation?
Reluctancy.
You've got industry professionals like Kate Bakos on here that just wants to learn a little bit about the industry and give some.
Anna, this is gold. I'm loving it.
You've got silly people on here. Brendan, it took 5 years because that's how long it takes sometimes. But when you know, and it was just a matter of making sure that you get the right environment to do it in. Lockdown didn't help. Initially, we had some plans to get up to Byron Bay. That didn't work, but we came up with a nice plan B, and we're very happy. Very happy.
Well done, mate. I actually think 5 years is pretty quick, so that's what I meant. But anyway, that's good, mate. Well done.
Thank you.
Hey, please tell us you got down on one knee.
I did. I did, Kate. Hello to Kate Humphries, one of the greats in property management. I did, Kate. It took me a little longer to get back up than what I would have liked, but I did one there. Yeah.
And was she surprised, Matt?
For the answer.
Have you ever seen there's a lot of crying memes out there, Chimmer? A lot of funny crying faces. Well, that's what I was greeted with when I popped the question, and then it was a little delay, and she said, "Oh, it's a yes, by the way," which is sort of nice to hear, I guess. Yeah. So, all right. Well, we're going to move off me. Thank you for bringing that up, Simon. And I'll just make memory of some of these comments as we whip through each person individually. Well done, Mads. Thank you for jumping on. I genuinely appreciate you to be a part of this. And I know that you may have to leave earlier than anticipated, so that's okay. At any stage, if you need to jump off, by all means, do so.
I will jump off shortly. I've just got a little Zoomy drink session to head to, so
hey, Maddie,
I'll stay on for a bit longer.
Yes, Kate?
I just wanted to say Brendan actually had a little present for you on his screen. I just don't think you saw it.
I do. I didn't want to interrupt, but George, my 16-month-old son, just did this for you, Matthew. He's come a long way with his English very quickly, actually, and he's just popped that together, mate. There's a couple of little stars and a few squiggles on it. He's very proud of you, he said. So I just thought I'd pass that on, mate. I haven't had a chance to see you. Sorry.
Very nice of George, and probably Sophie as well. Thank you, mate. Good on you. Very nice. All right. Well, we're going to keep moving. We've got one of the industry's all-time greats in Marcus Chiminello, who's in his backyard. So I feel kind of guilty that you're in a spray jacket. You look like you're on some acreage.
I'm freezing, Matty. I'm freezing.
Yep. Your house probably worth $10 to $25 million, but you're in the backyard on some dodgy internet connection. I hope you can hear us okay. Mate, how are you?
I certainly can. I'm well, buddy. I'm well. Much richer and wiser today for this experience being back on here for 2.0. It's great.
Very good. Very good. Now, look, obviously you are, well, none of us are new to lockdown. We've all been through this before. You've had without overselling it, you've had a stellar year, or certainly start to the year personally, and obviously you've got a great team behind you Mandy Stanley, your business manager, on this as well, who we'll get to shortly. Mate, how have you been? Quite seriously, since you and I last spoke, a lot's happened from a real estate perspective, particularly right at the top end of Melbourne real estate. How have things progressed for you?
It's been really good. I think last time I spoke to you, I was about half a dozen fireballs down, so it was a bit of a blurry interview. But I'm on the wagon this time. I'm staying off alcohol at the moment. It's making me much sharper. It's actually been very effective this year. No, the market's been really kind. I don't think we expected it to rebound as quickly as it did. And look, I genuinely think we're going to have another surge coming out of these lockdowns. You can just sense the frustration from the marketplace, and we'll slingshot back. Life's been good. Like lockdown. You know, as much as you can cry, you can complain. You just got to deal with it. It is what it is. We can't change it. I know it's as exciting as interviewing Brendan Allen on a Zoomcast, but you got to move on. You just got to deal with it. Hang on, I've got an 8-year-old hanging out a second-story window. Jacko, get in. Close that window, mate. Close that window. If you want a soft landing, if you land in the pool, get in, buddy. Close the window.
What's Jack Bongiorno doing upstairs in your house?
He just comes around and hangs out randomly. You know what he's like.
That's unbelievable.
You know
Is he still bald?
He only lives one street away now. That's the scary thing.
As you can tell, folks, we are raw, live, and uncut when we do this. We click once to record and we click once to stop. So if Chimmer's kid makes a jump for it mid Zoom, that's just
keep an eye out for me. If you see him coming over, just keep an eye out.
Yeah, we will. Marcus, why do you think? I mean, all sectors of the market seem to show some great signs of strength post lockdowns. Why do you think specifically the top end has been as strong as it has during what has been a pretty tumultuous time? And unprecedented, I hate that word, but it has been. Yeah. Why do you think the top end's been so bloody strong in relation to the rest of the market?
I think, it's a really good question. It's one I've answered a lot this year, because it's not to really think about it, that the situations like what we're going through at the moment, this lockdown, it really heightens deficiencies in the way people live, particularly when people are now planning for, like today, where you have to potentially educate, work, enjoy, relax, do everything under the same roof line, depending on the size of your family. So, look, there have been a lot of people that have made a lot of wealth in that journey. That's been the silver lining from COVID. The business has gone very well, but I think people are prepared, given the cost of money and how cheap it is to live in houses that aren't fit for their purpose. Because I think if you wound the clock back 18 months ago or 2 years ago, for a lot of people with busy lifestyles and school-age kids, they were literally passing through. Like, they were just visitors to the home, because they'd basically go in, eat, sleep, on with their lives, come back, and perhaps go away on the weekends or go away for long extended holidays. They didn't probably place as much importance on their home as they have done now. And that's why, these big $20, $30 million homes are going on the market. People are stepping up for $10, $15 million homes and snapping up quickly, because they know there's a limited supply.
Yeah, got it. Mate, I saw a double-page spread in the Herald Sun a couple of weeks ago, and I don't know if I wasn't going to bring this up, but I was bloody interested in it. For you to be a part of that, I don't know how it was received or how you managed to get roped into doing that, but what's the feedback been like? And in addition to it, one of the things I think that was nice to read to come out of it was that you're at the very top of your game, because you have an ability to keep a lot of key information private or results withheld, and you've got great confidentiality with some of the clients that you deal with. Talk me through that process. How hard is it to keep it confidential, and how did you get roped into that article in the first place?
I can't talk about it. Confidential, Matty. I was roped in, mate. I was roped in. I was fucking, excuse my language, I was pissed off on the Sunday. I hate the Herald Sun. The back 6 pages is about as far as I go on the Herald Sun. They reached out. They heard through a buyer's advocate email that I'd sold $200 million worth of real estate in 4 weeks, which was embellished anyway. But they reached out and said, "Oh, we might be doing an article about you and this sort of stuff, and can you talk about us?" I said, "I really can't. The deals, the prices, the people that were involved, I can't really talk about. So it's not going to be a very exciting interview." And they sort of left it at that. Then they called me 2 days later and said, "Do you mind if we get a photographer to pop past and take a photo of you somewhere? Can we meet you?" And I said, "Look, if you come between 12 and 1 on Friday, I'm going to be in the office, and you can take a photo of me out front of the office, or we've got a house across the road for sale." Yeah, great. I said, "What's it going to be?" And they go, "We're going to do an article on prestige real estate." Nothing about every other dingbat that was in that article,
right,
Mr. Pilios. And I was like, "Okay, great. All right, I'll do it." Took the photo. The photographer was like, "Jump up in the air with your hands in the air." I'm like, "No, mate, I am not doing that." He's like, "It's for the Herald Sun." I said, "This is what I'm afraid of." And anyhow, on Sunday morning, which was Mother's Day, I started getting some pretty good messages from friends and family. And I was like, oh, I've got to find this article. I've got to check it out. And yeah, that's how I ended up there, mate. That's how I ended up there. So it wasn't the article I expected. I should have suspected, but didn't expect. And look, keeping it confidential, I think people want to keep their business confidential. It can't be confidential for too long in this day and age, unfortunately, in the information age. But for as long as I can, I'll keep it under wraps, because I don't think it just, once again, it's a person employs you to do something. Or if there's an NDA in a contract that you've got to honour, you've got to honour it. It's just part of the process.
Do you think, Chima, with the confidentiality, do you think a lot of it is the agent excited about their own achievement, wanting to beat their chest? Like the people that can't sales confidential a lot of the time when they may be asked to, and they can't help but tell they've done.
100%, absolutely. Well, like it's a celebration. If you to knock one of these houses off and sell it successfully, you want to beat the chest, because it's an achievement. So yeah, I think for a lot of people it's hard to contain it. It really is. I wasn't expecting such a sensible question from you, Brendan. So I was a bit off guard.
I was going to say, when you sell 4 or 5 $20 million houses a week, you get used to it, don't you? Really, like it becomes like
yeah, more of a back.
That's right. Yeah.
I wish that was a joke, BA, but it's not. It's quite serious stuff. That is a good question from you. We do have real estate royalty amongst us, folks. So does anybody have a question for Marcus, or a comment based on some of the stuff that we've just heard?
Marcus, I can knock off after this, can't I?
No, you've got one more letter to know.
True, I got it. It's fine.
Outstanding.
Certainly
Marcus,
can, boss.
thank you.
Thanks, buddy.
For giving us some nuggets. Mate, if you have to whip off as well, by all means, you're not bound to be here, but thanks for giving us a bit of time. I genuinely appreciate it.
Thanks, mate. I'm going to lock some windows.
Good man. Good man. All right, we're gonna move along. I'm going grid view, so everybody's got a bit of a different grid view, but I am going to go to one of the best buyers advocates, not only in the state, but in the country. It's Kate Bakos, who's been kind enough to join us. Are you there, Kate? Can you hear me okay?
I am, Matt. So that's a lovely little intro. Thank you. I feel quite honoured to be on this, and it's lovely to see some of you that I know and I've worked with over the years. So yeah, thanks for letting me into the secret club for today.
Absolute pleasure. You were episode 11 of Zoomcast, and some great feedback coming through. You're the only advocate we've had on thus far, and that pissed off a couple of other advocates, Kate, let me tell you.
Winning.
That's part of this game. You win some and you lose some. Talk me through your year. Obviously, the market's got some great steam in it, or certainly has, until we've had the brakes put on us from a lockdown perspective. But geez, as an advocate, I reckon, and you'll fill us in, but it might be a double-edged sword that you've got plenty of people that are out there wanting to buy a piece of real estate, but at the same time, you might be going along to a lot of auctions and finishing second or third just based on market forces. How's it
been pretty awful, to be honest. A seller's market with this gusto is every buyer's agent's nightmare, and I'm not even getting silver medals sometimes. Right. So my auction success rate, it's not even at 50%, and that can be really hard. It's a bit soul destroying when you've got a team behind you and you're doing all that due diligence, the analysis, dealing with the emotions of the buyer. And we all know just, how much gusto the market's had to it. You can get someone in a position where they recognize what it's likely to go for on the day, and they're still saying, I really want it, I'll give you more, I'll put everything on the table. And, sometimes as an advocate, you grit your teeth and think, my goodness, that's a big price. I hope I don't have to use every bit of that. And then it sails past you. That has been the last 6 months. It's been very, very challenging. And I think, looking at this little lockdown that we've had now, I have to say, I've taken a few straw polls around the place, and a lot of advocates and selling agents have been a little bit relieved to have a reprieve. Just not that any of us want to be locked down and out of doing business, but 7 days didn't sound too bad, I must say.
Got it. What's the process like, Kate, when you've got a buyer that misses out on 2 or 3 or 4? Yeah. Is it a case of simply trying to up the budget or realign expectations? I'd imagine that would be a tough process, and obviously we're on the other side of it, largely representing vendors in what we do day to day. But talk us through that process for someone who's missed out repeatedly in a pretty hot market.
Yeah, it's very, very difficult. And you've got to be prepared to talk about the pace of the market and have that difficult conversation. And I sometimes say to clients, remember when I said to you, if there's something difficult that we need to talk about, we'll have that conversation. You won't like it. Well, the time has come. And you track the pace of the market. Nobody has a perfect crystal ball, but what we can do is look back at very similar products and recognise in a given area for a given dwelling type what the market's tracking at. And in the absolute heat of the market, in a lot of the areas that I was covering, we were watching market movement at 2% a month. So 1% a fortnight. So for a first home buyer or someone upgrading with $1 million budget, they have to be prepared for that property to gain a $10,000 value on a linear scale every fortnight. And, the higher the budget, the more significant that is. And I'm not even talking about looking at different quartiles of the market. So the message that I've had to have with a lot of clients during that time was, next week, you need to be prepared to set a new record for that dwelling type in that suburb. That's a hard thing for an advocate to say, and no one wants to set the record. But you also know that when the market's moving at this pace, someone will set a new record that overtakes your record in the following week or fortnight. And there's a lot of tears to mop up. You have to be very prepared to ask for the full budget up front, because there's no point having a buyer, giving you a restricted conservative budget and then finding an extra 10 or 15 or 50 or 100, whatever it might be. You're just on a really difficult journey if they're drip feeding you additional budget incremental increases, because you'll find if you're with them for 3 months, which is a long search in this particular market, their stretch budget might get you what their traditional budget could have. So you've just got to be prepared to put it all on the line, do your due diligence, and accept that you might be setting a little record.
Yeah. So if you're a buyer out there in the marketplace at the moment, Kate, whether you've got an advocate like yourself or whether they're trying to do it on their own, what sort of advice are you giving them when it comes to reading the play from a price perspective? Is it be prepared to pay more than a guide, be prepared to compete?
Always. Yeah, I say don't look at the guide, and that's not about the way that prices are put on the guide. You've got to do your due diligence. And we had a lot of situations where over COVID, agents had already engaged with their vendors, and they might have already earmarked property for sale, and they've done all of their comparable sales analysis. They've already worked through how they're going to quote the property, and then the vendor comes on 3, 4, 5 months later. Well, if you're looking at price analysis that's dated, that vendor might have agreed to that at the time. And I'm saying to all of my buyers, don't bother looking at the price guide. You have to be prepared to do some research. In my case, I'm doing the research, but anybody who's about to spend significant money on a property, they've got to be prepared to look at the comparable sales. It doesn't take, a license to do that. It's not rocket science. You get on the sold tab of a search engine, have a look at something that's similar, get 5 or 6 of them, and work through whether it's really in your budget or not.
And Kate, just lastly, from a professional sense, how are you going in the off-market world? I can tell you as an agent, it's bloody difficult to list.
Hate them.
It's tough to list an off-market opportunity at the moment because most vendors are prepared, and you've got the likes of Dwayne Wallerwick and Sarah Wood on here and the great Brad Cooper, but most vendors are prepared to roll the dice and say, well, the market's hot enough for me to punt it from a marketing investment perspective or a styling investment perspective to achieve an above average result based on what I know. I'd imagine that finding off-market opportunities for an advocate is proving difficult.
There's 2 kinds of off-markets. There's your situational off-market where they've genuinely got themselves into a position where they have to sell quickly. They might have some quirky requirements that might be that they want to stay on while they're building something else. So, that's not an easy property to take to auction because you've got your own set of conditions. It might be that, the tenant's a complete grub or they're making access really difficult and the person has to sell. So that's a situational off-market. We want to know about them. The discretionary off-market, they're a total waste of time. They're wasting agents' times, they're wasting buyers' times. They've got lofty price expectations and then they convert to an auction anyway. So no, the situational off-markets are really the only ones that we can focus on.
Got it. Thank you. Kate, are there any agents on here that you've been in a tough negotiation with over the journey that you want to pound on a little bit before you leave, or?
No, not tough ones. We've had great dealings. I've worked with Sarah a little bit more recently. Dwayne and I go back a long way. We've had some great dealings. In fact, I remember Marquee Street. Remember that one, Dwayne? That I could write a book about some of the deals that I've had, and that one was a quirky one. I got a phone call after the auction when the winning buyer had done a runner. So yeah, lots of wonderful stories that I could share, but yeah, friendly faces here, and you guys are great to work with.
I must say, Maddie, if I could just jump in and say, out of all the advocates we do work with, Kate has been by far one of the standouts, if not the best, just in terms of communication and just that transparency. I think that always, it makes a relationship a really positive one. So thank you, Kate. For being a pleasure to work with.
That means a lot.
I would second that wholeheartedly. Yeah, very, very straight to do business with.
Yeah, I think that's how you have to do business because, ultimately we've got a buyer, we've got a seller, and we're trying to make it happen for them. And, we know how to talk about a fair price, but yeah, it's all about having really great transparency and good relationships so that the opportunities keep coming for years and years.
Good on you. Well said. Thank you. Thanks for jumping on, Kate. I genuinely appreciate it. As I said, I know we don't have much on because we're all locked down, but geez, still nice of you to give up some of your time and join us and give a different perspective on what you do day to day from an advocacy perspective. So thanks again.
Total pleasure.
Good on you. Now, Dwayne and Sarah, you jumped in together to sing Kate's praises. I tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to leave you both off mute, and I'm going to work with you together if that's okay, because you are industry giants in your own right. Dwayne doing some beautiful work out of Burundara, and Sarah, an incredible agent in the city of Port Phillip. Dwayne, I might start with you first, mate. Your Zoomcast received a lot of positive feedback just about the sort of person you are, let alone the agent you are. But, mate, how are you? How have things progressed since you and I last spoke? And what does your year look like from, say, January to now?
Yeah, thanks, Matt. And, thanks for having me back on. Look, I reckon I've been a positive one. We've got a great team at the moment. Stu and I guess the Hawthorn team in general is a really good synergy, if I could say that, and a good. The year started well. I mean, Burundara market's super strong. I know Kate would testify. She's looking for some property in the area for some of her clients, and really, really firing at the moment. So from a real estate perspective, I couldn't be happier. From a personal point of view, I'm obviously very happy. I guess I'm as a person, but I've got I'm married, been married for nearly 25 years and 3 kids, 21, 19 next week, or a couple of weeks, I should say. I should know that birthday, and also 16. And so, private school fees are sort of almost behind. So that makes me even more happy. And and just, I guess just during this lockdown period, Maddie, I'm just really trying to focus on perhaps working a little harder on myself. And I know, sometimes very cliche during this period, but I've got to be very, very careful. I'm not spending too much time in the kitchen area, because I must say I tend to, I don't know, when I'm prospecting, even just during this lockdown period, prospecting, I just seem to walk with my AirPods in towards the walk-in pantry. I get stuck there, and all of a sudden the peanut butter jar is half full. And anyway, I just got to work on of things, but otherwise, just trying to make sure I get some balance and enjoy, and being a little bit easier on myself, not so hard on myself, and expect that I should be running at the same pace, because we can't. Yeah.
Dwayne, speaking of balance, everybody on here is bloody fit and firing, which makes me feel really good about myself. But mate, what is your go-to? Because I know for me, Caramilk have got a couple of varieties out at the moment. They've gone with a marble setup, and then they've hit a hokey pokey and a top deck combination. So the chocolate just ripping through the pantry at the moment. What are you going with?
Oh, look, Maddie, I'm the problem is I'm all like, I can't go by heart. I'll go one day where I'm just really, really disciplined, and then the next day I just completely undo that work. And so really anything that's nailed down, it goes in my gob, and leave a lot behind.
You're very good. That's not true. You're fit and firing, mate. Thank you for jumping on. Woody, can I cut to you just quickly? I've got a question I was going to ask a couple of people, but you're the right person to answer this. Given what you know about lockdowns past to moving into this particular lockdown, is there anything that you learnt last time that you said, all right, bloody hell, we're locked down again, so I better get this right or organised, or are you just taking it in your stride one day at a time and still doing what you do?
I would say the latter, probably. I'm probably taking a pretty relaxed approach to it, sometimes almost a little bit too relaxed. I think the agents that really dominated certainly the first quarter of this year were the ones that probably utilised lockdown and did serious prospecting and worked really hard, whereas I found my start of the year's been quieter in terms of the start that I had. But then, it's just funny, the momentum, how it works. I feel like I've probably never been busier in terms of what's ahead of me. So I think it just works in cycles. So I'm a bit with Dwayne. I think we've got to be kinder to ourselves, and I think we do work incredibly hard. And I also think that COVID has really removed the boundaries of, if you get a message or something at 7 or 8 or 9 o'clock, there is an expectation to respond. So I think we've got to be better at turning off. So I'm the first to admit I haven't done a huge amount of work this lockdown. I've really taken it as this might well be the holiday. Of course, I'm reactionary with the phone ringing and things like that, and talking to the current vendors, because I can't see us having personally, I can't see myself having a break in June or July. So I think we just have to take it when it comes, and obviously react to the work when it's in front of us.
Yeah. Yeah. And I know there's no right answer to this, Woody. It all comes down to the individual. Some people have kids, some people are married, some people are single. So your life setup will dictate how you go about it. But what do you think is right in terms of when you should respond or when you should give yourself a break? Do you have a phone down at 7 p.m. policy and pick it up at 8 o'clock in the morning, or you're not that rigid?
It depends on the client, but what I have learned is I think you have to create boundaries. I think if you do respond to a vendor at 8 or 9 o'clock at night, there is an expectation that they think that that's always going to be the way. So I'll read the play depending on how urgent it is. But if it's not urgent, it can certainly wait till the morning. I think I need to get better at that. And certainly my partner makes me aware of the fact that I am probably too much on my phone. And that's definitely something I need to improve on.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting for those that have got partners that are not real estate people, the different view and opinion that they have on the way we work and what we do. If you happen to be connected to somebody within real estate, then it seems to be part and parcel. But for those that's particularly with people that aren't real estate agents or advocates or property managers, they look at us like we're bloody insane, and so they should. So no, that's interesting, Woody. I appreciate you answering those because I thought you'd be the right person to give us shed some light on that sort of stuff.
Pleasure.
Good stuff. Hey, Simon Jovanovic, CEO of Marshall White. You're probably 3 to 4 Peronis deep by the time I've got to you on here. Welcome.
Thanks, Matty.
How are you?
Yeah, really good, actually.
Yeah.
I think, like a few people have commented, taking a little bit more of a more relaxed view on this lockdown. Fingers crossed it's behind us by the end of next week, and we're back at least showing people through houses, and won't be too many auctions on the long weekend. Yep. But we'll be back operating. So I think, like others have said, I know Dwayne's been keeping fit. I've been trying to exercise every day. I had a run this morning with Dan Wheeler from our Armidale office, and I think neither of us were going to back down. So I think both of us probably ran a bit hard, not wanting to let the other one get up on them. Different approach with homeschooling as well. I've got, most I've got 3 kids, a child in year 10, Tommy, I've got Bella in year 7 and Millie in year 5, and just trying to take a bit more of a relaxed approach with that, and probably just take some pressure off us as parents as well. Yeah. My wife's she's a prep teacher, so she's busy with 25 prep kids. So just trying to juggle and just get a bit of balance at home. Yep. So overall, though, very good.
But Simon, lockdowns can be a lot of things. They can be frustrating for a lot of people, and they certainly are, because they break up some of the momentum that a lot of people have been working incredibly hard to get. To the agent not necessarily the agent, mind you, to the property manager, to the real estate person that's frustrated about the current climate and environment, that feels like their momentum's been taken away and they're being dictated to, as opposed to being free like most real estate people like to be. What sort of message would you pass on?
Look, we've really said to the team, when it was initially a week, we just said, look, take a breather. Everyone across the state is actually in the same situation. People are understanding, everyone's frustrated, but the world's not going to end. Whilst we're frustrated, we're still a lot luckier than most countries around the world. So the focus really was, control the controllables. There's nothing you can do. Take a break, take the foot off the pedal for a couple of days, and we'll be back next week. Now that's stretched to 2 weeks. Look, we'll start to get back into the swing of things a little bit more next week, with company meetings and sales meetings dropping back in. But overall, the message still is, take a breather. We're going to be back. We know that on the sales side, for example, the back end of June and probably July school holidays now are going to be quite busy.
Yep.
So the team's going to be back under the pump very, very quickly, and that's the same across property management projects. So enjoy the mini break whilst we can, but recharge for a busy couple of months in front of us.
Yep. Well done. Speaking of a busy couple of months, if I could just turn our attention to the property management division at the moment. Kate Humphreys is with us. She's one of the more positive people that any of us have had the opportunity to work with and spend some time with. Kate, how are you?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm okay for a Friday at almost 5 o'clock.
Yeah.
I'm only half a drink in, and it's quite a light gin. So
thank you, Kate, because this could have been a very different Zoomcast had you pounded through more.
That's right.
gin.
Everyone else can do that, so that's
Thank
totally
you.
fine. But no, I feel like I was saying to our team, whilst the week has actually flown for us, but I also still feel like we've been in this lockdown forever. It's just this weird getting your head around, and knowing obviously it has been extended. But I think as well, our team has probably done the same thing. We thought, well, look, there's only so much we can do. Let's just try and have a bit of a break. I guess for us, our market, that doesn't really change. So we're always busy every season, and we're always on the go. So for us, for coming off this, and as Marcus said, we will have a bit of a surge. But it's so funny and scary to think we're already halfway through the year. Like, how are we already halfway through this goddamn year? I'm like, I just don't know how it's happened. So, but that's a good sign. So for us, I think, really the momentum, we haven't had as such a surge in our market like the sales team, but we've been so consistent. And it's funny, Marcus was mentioning that people have spent so much time in their own homes over the last 12 months and they're wanting to make changes or they're wanting to do things. What we're finding is that there are so many families, especially in that Stonington area, they're building, they're renovating, they're going, okay, I've got to do more to my home, I've got to extend it. So they don't want to actually sell or leave where they are. They'd like to obviously do some work to it. So we've actually found, especially probably in the last 3 months, there's been so many people that are building, which is awesome. So
a rent on the way back, do you think, Kate? How do you think
look,
the market's looking?
It's consistent. I sort of we obviously our days on market, our vacancy rates have come back. We're not sort of, everyone was sort of saying, oh, it's dropped by 10%. It probably hasn't dropped by about 10%. We're just conservative, trying not to obviously go, and we really don't even talk about last year. But I think it's consistent. We're not sort of firing in terms of getting these unbelievable prices like the sales market, but at the same time, we're still achieving some really good results and quickly, and still doing a lot of market too. So, and I think it's really good to see that there are so many people out there that are all still wanting properties, and there is still a demand. We don't have enough stock for some clients too. So it's just, it's funny. Our leasing team, we're on a really good roll. There's been really good momentum across all of our offices. So it's just, it's crazy to think it's already June. And look, yes, we are back here again. But I was going to tell you both, and Dwayne, do yourself a favour. TV Snacks have actually brought out a Krispy Kreme version. And I've got to tell you, they're pretty good.
Wow.
All right. So
Last thing I know.
No, trust me. There's an original flavour. So it's like an original Krispy Kreme. And then there's a strawberry cupcake one. Listen here, my pantry, they're gone. So.
Dangerous stuff. Dangerous stuff. Kate, thank you. It's always nice to hear a property management perspective. I know you had about 130 odd changes to the Residential Tenancies Act, which you had to work through as well, which sounded bloody riveting. Simon, I was on every one of those meetings where we got the updates. So thanks for that. Yes, been a tough 12, 18 months for property management, hasn't it, Kate?
And that's the thing. I think when you look at the leasing side of the market, and then you look at the actually managing the properties and everything that the team have to go through, and the amount of training and the amount of support. I mean, there are so many amazing team members who you can go to, and that's what it is. It really comes down to, especially when you're looking at those and wanting reassurance. And even you guys, I mean, you guys can always come and say, hey, what's the change with this or what's happened with that? And it's still changing. This is the crazy thing. Yes, there's new legislation that's in place, but they still sometimes change it. So we're just really fortunate that our beautiful team who's growing. And the weird thing is, since in COVID, our department's grown. It's absolutely boomed. Yeah. But the scary thing is, Paula actually said to us, 30% of our market, 30% of property managers have actually left the industry in the last 12 months.
Is that right?
So 30%. For us to know, they've had a bit of a rethinking on, oh my God, but for us to know that we've grown and we've got fabulous people around us and joining the family, it's awesome.
Good on
so
you.
Yeah,
Yep.
definitely from the Armidale side of things, we're very much a, you know how they say they're a happy team at Hawthorn? We're a happy team at good old Stonington.
Good
So
on
yeah,
you.
so it's really good. Yeah.
Well done. Well done.
Yeah.
Thanks, Kate. Thanks for jumping on and giving us that angle. It's always nice to hear from you.
Crispy
Well done.
Kremes.
Hey, Brad Cooper, you're in the building. If I could just get you to come off mute. How are
Thanks,
you?
Matty. Yeah, I'm well. How are you?
Very well. Very
Good to
well.
be
I
on
know
board. Thank
Brendan
you.
and Mandy have been waiting patiently to get some airtime, and I promise I won't keep you long. But I've moved across to, he's the leader of the apartment division at Marshall White, Brad Cooper. And Brad, you're doing a magnificent job at leading that little unit, by the way. But I was interested in Kate's commentary about having to replenish from a staffing perspective. Obviously, when COVID first hit and there were a lot of uncertainty surrounding businesses and financial positions, and as a result of that, unfortunately, some people had to be shown the door, not because of performance or who they were as people, but because of the unknown. You're in major recruitment overdrive at the moment, aren't you, to sort of restock?
Definitely are at the moment, Matty. You're right. Back when COVID hit the first time last year, there were crisis meetings going around everywhere, and I think we had to let. I think there was one day I had to let 3 or 4 go in that particular day. So that was a very, very tough, given that I'd only been at the company for 2 or 3 months. So always very hard to let good people go. But certainly at the moment, I think I had 6 or 7 resumes hit my desk just the week before lockdown. So conducting plenty of interviews, and there's certainly a lot of good people out there that want to get into the industry and get into sales. So we're sifting through them to hopefully bolster the team.
Good on you.
At the moment, which is good, because it's certainly a very, you look at the last couple of months in Team 1, we've had record months of 42, 45 transactions. So it's been extremely busy. So definitely want to bolster the team across the board at the moment.
Yeah. The volume game is it's never been higher from a Team 1 perspective, and it might have been some landlords or rental providers, Kate, that have decided to on-sell an investment property and then reassess where they're at in the coming months or years. So, Brad, how's your year gone professionally and personally apart from lockdown?
Oh, look, it's been a good 18 months. I've been back at Marshall White, Matty, and it's guys like you and Kane and Yossi and the entire team that make my role even more, I guess, rewarding, because you're a great. I think Damien Hardwick says to the Tigers, you're an incredible team. He says that a lot, and I must admit, you guys are certainly an incredible team and a wonderful bunch of just good people, and you've become friends, which I think is important as well. I had a kick at the footy yesterday with Mandy and Maddie and Yossi, and I managed to pop a calf. So there you go. We were out having an illegal kick at Caulfield Park, but we did quite a few of those kicks last year during lockdown. So
Simon, that's not true, mate. We were
I denying that. Had nothing to do with it.
We just happened to we bumped into each other.
Coming for dinner.
We just bumped into each other walking around Caulfield Park, didn't we, guys? You
managed to pop a calf, but you didn't. You also managed to ensure that tan is as glistening and as strong as it's ever been. Are you solarium based, or are you just using the solar system? What's going on there?
I think it must be good lighting, Matty. I think, but yeah, look, fortunate enough, as I mentioned earlier, to get away from to Noosa for a week just prior to lockdown, and Mr. Jovanovic was kind enough to make, and Paul Gregory were kind enough to make some wonderful recommendations on restaurants, and Simon, Ricky's, what a fantastic restaurant. I mean, it's up there, isn't it? One of the best.
One of the best up there.
Really, really good. So no, Matty, fortunate to sneak away, and I think the tan's still there at the moment, but I think it's good lighting, mate, more than anything.
Who wins Dreamtime at Optus Stadium? Your Tigers, my Bombers, and the Yayukin medalist or award winner, please, Brad.
Matty, I think it's been 8 years since you guys have beaten the Tigers in Dreamtime. I think we'll get you by a point, and I'm going to give it to Riley Collier-Dawkins. He'll win the medal.
Okay.
So, but I'm sure it's bound to be a great spectacle. Full house at Optus.
Should be a good one.
Can't wait, mate.
Should be a good one. Thanks for jumping on. Hey, Mandy and Brendan, you two used to be teammates in Team Chiminello. Mandy, of course, the business manager at Marcus's team. Brendan's he's fled and gone back to country Victoria in Euroa. Mandy, I might start with you. As a business manager, how do these lockdowns impact your world? I can only imagine that not sitting within your team has got to be bloody difficult.
It is. It's really tricky, actually. For someone who's as difficult to catch as Marcus, I'm probably at the bottom of the list at the moment. Unless I walk over a few streets down and knock on the door, I don't really catch him. Or actually, I think he's still in the Zoom room at the moment. So that's the most I've seen of him in the last week or so. But yeah, really tricky. Communication becomes more difficult when you've got, so many people trying to get to you via text messages, phone calls, emails. It just becomes a little bit messier than actually popping in and saying hi and what's the go with this and getting short answers. But yeah, I think nothing can be as difficult as what last year was. So, when the announcement rolled around for this time, it's like, yeah, got this down. We know what to do. Everyone just lock and load and let's all roll home.
What advice do you have for other business managers or admin staff that are trying to work through lockdown? Are there any tips or advice you could give to keep the team humming, if you like?
Yeah, and actually this sort of comes from experience of last year as well as this year. And I've been emailing some of our admin team as well. And just, I think when this all happens and the changes come through and the government announce, one more week or it's going to be this amount of time, you're very quick to want to plan exactly what that looks like on the other side and organize, what the steps are going to be. But I sort of have put most things on ice for the moment and sort of just rolling with the punches, being a bit more flexible, which is very outside of my character mold. I do like to be very organized, very planned, very calculated. And I've just found that really makes you do your job once, twice, 3 times over before we really get any certainty. So, and Marcus is pretty good with that, being very reactive the right way when it's called for, rather than being too planned in advance and having to redo things 2-3 times over. So yeah. I think that's something, the biggest takeaway I learned from last year is just to chill out and just see what happens, and you can jump on it when it comes up.
Well done. I've just got some funny text messages coming through as we're on this. Brendan.
Matthew.
Mate, sorry to keep you to last. You are a very entertaining member of the Zoomcast fraternity.
Very nice.
Regional Victoria, you've got some slightly varied do's and don'ts in your part of the world. Mate, how are you going, and how are things looking from a regional Victoria perspective?
Yeah, mate. I'm actually in the office today, so we're back into it in effect from today, as far as being able to do inspections. And obviously, we're still adhering to, wearing masks inside. Although I'm not now, I'd sort of be a bit rude on the Zoomcast. But yeah, we're able to do inspections one-on-one and that sort of thing. So yeah, back into it today. But we were pretty well in a holding pattern, or the same holding pattern you guys were in for the last week or so. But yeah, we're pretty fortunate, really, up here. So. Yeah, it's been okay.
Has your market gone absolutely whooshka with people wanting regional property to put into the portfolio, given that the metropolitan Melbourne market has gone through the roof from a price perspective?
Yeah, it's been pretty steady. Like since COVID started, it's been steadily, there's been a steady amount of demand. Like we've probably I'm in Little Euroa, which is only sort of just under 4,000 people. And we've probably seen, 30% growth in 12 months or so. And this area probably wouldn't have seen that for the past, maybe 10 years. So it's been unique, and I think a lot of people here are adjusting to the new normal, and we're seeing these towns on these regions on a macro level shifting and really transforming, as far as people coming into the areas and opening good cafes and good restaurants, and investing into these regions, which we haven't really seen for a long time. So really seeing these little towns transform before our eyes, really. It's it's a really good, healthy place to live. Like my wife's from here, and so it's just an easy place to live. I think Mad said before about like not having high street Armadale traffic. Like no traffic is like just unbelievable. You sort of forget. Like I was in Melbourne 10 years, but you forget how just good it is to be able to get in your car and just drive and not have to sort of stop behind someone or a tram or someone on a bike or anything like that. So so it's good. Can't complain, mate.
I saw a really good Instagram video that you were in for Elders, and it's got some form of a property management to it. Can you maybe work us through what that's about?
Yeah. So I employed Jenna about when would it be, back in February now. So it's gone quick, as Kate was saying. It's years flying, and Jen is our head of property management. So we've just sort of started a rent roll in the last few weeks. And yeah, we did a bit of a promo video, which is sort of offering people that join or bring their property across to us the chance to win $1,000, mate, at Mitchelton Winery, which is a pretty good little winery and hotel and restaurant and all of that. So yeah, just trying to drum up a bit of business, mate. Build a good rent roll over the next few years.
Good on you. Good on you. And what are you predicting for the balance of your year professionally in terms of how your market's shaping up?
I think we'll probably see, given the rapid growth we've seen here in the last year and a bit, particularly relative to what the previous probably 50 years looked like, I think we'll probably see it steady a little bit, and I think that'd be not a bad thing. Like the Melbourne and Sydney markets that are having these bull markets at the moment, they've had them before, and it's not unusual, and it's been there, done that. Whereas here, we've seen an unprecedented, I know the word's been used, but like there hasn't been a time that like what we've seen in like recent history. So I think we'll probably see it even out a little bit. It already feels like that's happening. However, you just never know what the impact of a fourth lockdown will have on Melburnians, and we won't really know that until they can actually come up here again and we actually see the numbers on the ground here and inquiries and inspections. So I just have a feeling it'll probably find a little bit of a level rather than running away as it has been, I reckon.
Yeah, mate, last one. Obviously, you were a really high-performing agent in Melbourne, and you've taken that skill set and put it into country Victoria. Now that you're removed from the, I appreciate your role is busy, but it might be different busy to what it would have been otherwise. Mate, do you have any advice for the Melbourne agent who, is snowed under, can't get all his callbacks done or all of his emails attended to? Do you have any advice for someone who struggles to keep up from a time management perspective?
I think you have to work at a different pace when you're in the city, and because the expectation of the market and the client is probably it's not higher, it's just at a different speed. And Maddie mentioned before about no appointments after sort of 6 o'clock. Well, that's interestingly here it's the same. Like people, they feel bad asking you out at 5 o'clock, let alone 6:30 or 7. So that part of it's hard to control. I mean, I still think that people could probably be a little bit more rigid with their own structure, their own life, and have people work around them rather than the other way around. Marcus does that really well. So time management's always important, but I just think it's, and look, having moved back here, as I said, I was in Melbourne 10 years, it's easier to stop and smell the roses here because things are at a slightly slower pace. But you really realise and remember how good that is for you, and for not just for you, but for the people in your life. Like my wife, and I've got a 16-month-old, and so it's not just about yourself; it's about the people in your life, and actually, actually spending time with them. And I've done that by default a bit more here than I did in Melbourne. But yeah, I think that's probably the main thing. And with COVID, the attitude I've taken from the start is it's outside of my control. So it's sort of, the influence it has and effect it has on you as an individual is really up to you. You can't control it. So you really, you can either decide to let that affect you, or you can, look at the positives, which really are. And I think that's what people have experienced down in Melbourne lately, is you've actually had the opportunity to spend more time with, whether it's your partner or your kids or family or whoever. And people are sort of not rekindling the relationships, but realizing how valuable that is because of how, and they notice that by how they feel themselves. They feel better in a way, a lot of people, which is an interesting thing. So yeah, I think it's hard to compare the two. The pace here is completely different. My prospecting at the moment consists of walking to the local coffee shop and having literally it takes an hour to go and get coffee and back, which I love that. Like it's, everyone knows everyone in this town, and you're not even talking about real estate, and that's hard. Again, that's hard to replicate in a high density suburb. But so it's hard to compare the two, but just trying to control the controllables and manage your own time, and realize that writing $1 million or $800,000 or $500,000 or whatever it is should be sort of probably not even in the top 5 or 6 things that you should be focused on in your life. That's my personal view. It's important, but it's not anywhere near as important as family, health, friends, those things that really, they really, as my wife says, they fill your bucket. That's what she says to the primary school kids. So yeah, that would be I don't think people get caught up about the dollars and cents as much as they used to after this.
Yeah.
Well said.
Everyone's nodding along here. You got some absolute stars on here.
Very well said.
A beautiful way and a beautiful sentiment to finish a lockdown Zoomcast on that. We value what we need to value, and the rest of it sort of take care of itself. And I think everyone who's on here and has been a guest in the past on Zoomcast might have echoed those sentiments previously as well. So, mate, thank you for jumping on and sharing a little bit about what you're up to, and everybody, in fact, who's given up their Friday night. Basically, we've gone on and on, but how nice to get so many good performers, top performers on the same time, the same call, and give a bit of a pep up to some of the Victorian real estate fraternity who might be doing it a little bit tough or might be enjoying a little bit of a well-deserved break to listen to us gasbag about how we're all going. Well done, team. I appreciate it.
Thanks for having us, Maddie.
Thanks, Maddie. Well done.
Well
Thanks,
done.
team.
Well done, Maddie. Thank you.